Chapter 90, The Island. Our story ends on an island where the robot was returning to her wild way of life. Roz had escaped from a world of humans, and now she was free to be her true self again. She could think and speak and do whatever she desired. As of right now, what she desired was to simply watch the sunset. With Brightbill on her shoulder, Roz hiked past trees and meadows and streams and climbed up the mountain to the highest point on the island. There our friend sat on the slanted rocks of the peak and watched the sun slowly sink behind the ocean. If you're like me, reader, you still have a lot of questions. How long will Roz live? Will she ever see another human? Another robot? What joys and sorrows lie ahead for her? Roz still had questions too, but now she had answers. Our robot knew where she came from, she knew the life she was supposed to live, and she knew the life she wanted to live. As Roz sat with Brightbill, she slowly turned her head, scanning the island, taking it all in. The last rays of sunlight streaked through the treetops below. Animals scurried through the shadows. The air was fresh with the scent of flowers and salt water. The sky began darkening. The crickets were chirping. The stars were twinkling. Everything was just right. Roz felt safe and happy and loved. The wild robot was home. And this section is called the Epilogue. It's kind of the end part of the story. It tells a little bit more. And then there's more information at the end of this about our author, Peter Brown, but I gave you a whole section in here on him, so you should be able to look up more information in the Google Classroom on him. So here's the epilogue. Autumn had returned to Hilltop Farm. The pasture was coated with frost, but the cows were out there grazing on the last few tufts of green grass. Soon they'd stroll up to the parlor for another milking. Their routine never changed. Mr. Sharif was sitting in his pickup truck with his dog. The man stared out the window across the fields at that new robot. He was keeping an eye on her. Tech Lab had promised him this one wouldn't run away, but he did not trust her yet. These days, the children spent most of their free time working on the farm. Jaya had a way with cows. Jad likes the tools and machines. They were walking through the farm buildings together when they heard honking sounds in the sky, and a flock of geese glided to the pond. For weeks, geese had been stopping by on their migrations, but there was something different about this flock. They flew in perfect formation, and they were led by a small, graceful goose. The flock calmly floated on the water. After a while, the leader shook out his tail feathers, beat his wings, and fluttered over to Jaya and Jad. The goose stood in front of the children. He gazed deep in their eyes. Then he craned his neck, plucked out one of his feathers, and laid it on the ground by their feet. Jaya and Jad looked at each other and smiled. The children had been waiting for this moment. They'd always wanted to know how Roz's story would end, and now they finally knew. The wild robot was back where she belonged. And that's the end. I'll be posting about what our new book is, and I hope you'll like that one too. Keep listening, keep reading.